You know, you will do such a good job with interviews, so that's neat.
You want to be a great interviewer? Study Jesus. They want to be seen, heard, and loved.
Yes.
Jesus is just crushing it. He goes up to these people and he sees them, he hears them, he speaks life into them, he renews them with his words and his life.
Walk like Jesus walked, talk like he talked, think like he thinks. In my previous church, I was there for a long time, maybe 40 years. We had a similar situation. We were in an all-purpose room that held, with everything open, about 600 people. We were having 2 services and we were running out of room, that we had no sanctuary. You know, we needed room. And financially, we were not in a position to put a big addition onto the church. And so decided to plant churches. Of course, first thing we said, we all loved our pastor, said, well, who's going to go? But we found that we had people coming quite a distance to our church.
Yeah.
We announced that people interested would gather around, and we had quite a few, surprisingly, more than we thought. Unlike the situation that we have here, they had to find a place to meet. We, as a church, financially supported them for, I think, probably 1 to 2 years. Amazing how many people were interested in a church plant. Maybe they were because they was closer to their home, or they just had an interest in new people coming in. Yeah. Doing that 3 times, we planted a church in the West Shore, one in Lancaster, and one in Lebanon. As far as I know, they're thriving churches. That's just what God did. It wasn't we were so wise or anything of that nature. But I found it in my life, sometimes I had no idea what I was doing. If you follow why, God will make it work. Moses in the burning bush, you know, he saw something there and he went to inquire what it was. And I think sometimes if we see an opportunity and maybe we don't have the wisdom of exactly what to do, or we don't have financially enough to do it, but if that seems to be burning, probably a good idea that we follow what God's trying to do.
Boy, that is encouraging.
After these church plans, you know, our church started Hershey to Moscow to raise $1 million to put a seminary in Russia after the wall came down. But this was a big stretch. And our pastor was too busy to go. This was the initial trip to Russia to see what we could set up. And we didn't know what we were doing. We really didn't. Over in a place called Nizhny-Komsk. This is maybe 600 miles or more east of Moscow. There were 7 pastors who had little churches all through the communist years, but no training as far as a seminary or Bible school or anything of that nature. And we met with them, and that was an amazing time.
Why was it so amazing with them?
There was one pastor, they had a church, and it was a town that was built because Russia had a petrochemical plant, but there was no town there. So they established a town for the workers. There was one woman in there who was a believer, and she said she prayed every day that a church would start in this town. Somehow this pastor came and started a church, and we met with that church on Sunday. And the interesting thing, the preacher was preaching. Over his head was a big picture of
or Lenin or something?
Lenin.
Lenin, yeah.
That's right, Lenin. Big red picture, you know.
Yeah.
Under,
menacing, yeah.
And it was just, it was amazing to hear some of the testimonies.
Almost like a eternal rebellion,
Exactly,
right?
yes.
Right. Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
People aren't just born courageous and doing these great. They are leading in the spirit.
I was never a real courageous person. I wasn't the guy out in the front with the flag. Wasn't me. But yeah, I did learn that this is something God has given me. I see an opportunity. Well, I'd better latch on to it and see what he could do. And he's done that in so many ways. In addition to Russia, once we had a call from a missionary who was down in Peru. He said, we are on a tributary of the Amazon River, and we're visiting all these villages that have never been reached for Christ. He said there's at least 100 of them along this river. He said they respond well to young people. Could you send a group of young people down to go with us on the boat? And
We're in the Amazon.
yeah. And at that time, we happened to have a school teacher who just retired. You know, you just retired and they're looking for a team of youth. Could you be the leader for this? You know, and yeah, he was really interested. And so the youth prepared, they even prepared some things in the Spanish language that they could use with them. There was a church there along the river that had a boat, Evangelista one. One elder had a lot of experience in the Navy, and he wanted to know about this boat and was that safe and so forth. The elder said, well, okay, the youth can go in this thing, but no swimming in the river because of piranhas in the river, no swimming.
That's what I was just thinking about, piranhas.
Yeah. So team went down, and the missionary who had called them did well with photography. So he did a video of some of the things that they did. People from the village onto the boat, and they would teach them. And they came back from the trip. Can we show this little video of the trip for Sunday? We had never viewed it. And so they showed us a Sunday service. And the youth are diving off the boat into the river. I said, I'm dead.
That's hilarious.
Today, we had built a 100-foot long boat that has classrooms in for teaching, sleeping quarters, big diesel engine, and they take doctors, dentists, youth, and they're still
to this day
up and down the river. Yeah.
That must lift your soul, even thinking about that.
Amazing to me that they were able to build. I mean, this is a real ship. The funds that came together, and it just.
I love that story.
Yeah, it was great. It really was.
What kind of impression has the encounter made on you? Like, what do you think of the body? What are your thoughts on it?
We first came here when corporate worship after the pandemic. Let's just go there. A couple of things that impress us. One, the worship, the whole atmosphere, the meeting together, the music. It was probably the most worshipful service that we had been a part of. And that really drew us in. The very friendliness of people. We would usually get here early. Most old people get there early. I don't know why. And
oh, that's so funny.
People would come and talk to us, like you, Brock. I remember you coming over, and I said, "You're the music guy, right?" And same thing with Ted. So while I was doing some woodwork, I was building a table for dining room. And he said, oh, I do woodworking. And he showed me some pictures of things he was doing.
Yeah.
Got to know him a little. People were just so friendly, and we were just drawn in. Hey, I think God's calling us here. I really do. The invisible kingdom of God.
Yes.
I don't know what you picture in your mind, but I picture over in Russia, the translators that are not just in Russia, but various countries. And I think about, these are all invisible, these people all over the world, but one day it will be visible.
Yeah.
Wow.
The web that it will all be.
I think about this a lot. Maybe I feel I'm getting closer.
What do we hear? 90 years, 100 years if we're lucky, and then eternity. And Christians simply must think like that. What did Jesus care about? He cared about the kingdom, and he cared about people. Full stop. And that's because that was forever.
Yeah.
That was forever. Everything else is not forever. Yes. Even the suffering and the hard and the things that break our heart.
Book of Acts, Saul was blinded by God and wanted to restore his sight. And God said, he's a chosen person. See how many things he has to suffer for me. This was a chosen person, but he's going to suffer for me.
He's going to suffer. I was just reading through the stoning of Stephen, and there's this little couple of verses, 2 verses, and it's like, they came and they threw their garments before a young Pharisee named Saul. And so Saul sees Stephen get martyred, which really is the dandelion in the wind of the church.
Gave a wonderful report, didn't he?
Was that not the best sermon you've ever heard in your life?
Ever, yes.
Just like banger after banger, just great stuff. And I think about that sometimes. By the way, you think about being Paul. He's later Paul, Saul becomes Paul. He murdered all these Christians, threw all these people to the lions. He's just a human being. He has to be feeling terrible about that. But he falls on the grace of God and he says, not but me, but him. I got to finish the race.
My wife has been a big help in our lives when she was well. When we had problems, we were always together. She was always for me, and that was a big help. Whenever I thought I should be doing something, she was always right there beside me and ready to go. She was always for me. That was a great help. A lot of prayer and things that I felt I couldn't do or it was too difficult. God would answer these prayers. Rejoice in the Lord always. I tell you, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all the Lord is near. Don't be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition, bring your prayers to God, and the peace that transcends all understanding will guard your heart and your mind in Christ Jesus. And I believe that's true. He says, I'll guard your heart and your mind. That's us, our heart and our mind, and I'll guard you. I'm just not going to say I'm going to answer everything the way you want it answered, but I'll guard you. That verse is always, that's stuck with me.
You testify to that being true. You do. You do. You do, Lou.
Rejoicing in the Lord. I say rejoice.
Rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice.
Yeah.
It's great. It's like somebody gave me that gift as a kid. It'll always be with me. It's beautiful. Do you testify as the man that sits before me now to the faithfulness of God?
All my life, really. And right now with Audrey, my prayer every day is, God, give me the wisdom, the patience, the love that Audrey needs each day, because I sometimes I can't do it, but you give me these things so I can minister to her. We've been good. Yeah, she still loves me.
I hope you know this. You've really enriched my life. One of the greatest reasons to go to a church, I tell people, is so that you benefit from that. It's wisdom. That's practical wisdom, like raising kids, being married. But much more important than that, although that's very important, they have cut down some tall grass before you. And it's just a fact in life experience, in walk with the Lord. And that is a gift if you listen to it. I don't know any other place in society left where you can get such relationships other than the church.
We moved a few times. And the neat thing about the church is wherever you moved and you found a church and
Home.
Yeah, it's great. The church is alive. Praise God.
You've lived a rich life in the Lord. If your heart is hungry for him and you want to be faithful to him, I think it's worthwhile here. And, I have this one woman I love. She died here, but her name was Marion. I was saying to her, I just keep struggling with doubt because I've always officially known the Lord because I was raised in a Christian home. I was like, I just can't shake this doubt. This is what she said to me, this sweet woman. She goes, every Sunday, Brock, you come up to me, you give me a hug, and you say to me that I smell like the aroma of Christ.
Oh, that's great.
So she said to me, only the Spirit of God and a Christian can recognize the Spirit of God. And Lou, that was such a
that's
gift that was to me.
It's
Cut through my doubt. Such a gift.
When a church can be a point where you actually feel his presence.
Do you think we're being obedient?
Yes, that's what drew me here.
That woman at the well thing, you could study that for 1,000 years and not fully understand what he's doing there. It's so profound. That's how profound it is. What does he do? Like, I think about this all the time. That woman was probably the most famously shamed woman in Samaria. All these husbands, adultery, all these things. How fascinating that he picks her, sees her, hears her, loves her. Can't prove this, but she runs back, and I've been seeing this guy see me because of her reputation. Changed that whole town. Now that's brilliant because you would have went to the politicians, you would have went to the rich, influential people. That's amazing.
The end of that story is that she brought the people to Jesus, and the people said, we believed what you said, but now that we've heard him, we really believe.
I'm always encouraging young people. I'm like, you will study a lot of great philosophers, a lot of great composers. You will never interact with somebody as fascinating as Jesus. I promise you that. I can take that to the bank. Nobody will blow your mind like that. And there are some good ones. I love philosophy. I love music. I love art. For example, Leonardo da Vinci is like so amazing. It's like ridiculous.
Oh my.
But not as cool as Jesus.
Broke down all the barriers. Yeah.
He is deserving of all our praise for that and so much more.
Jesus was sent by the Father, and the Father knew that he was going to be ridiculed and flogged and finally nailed up on a tree. And I think of how Jesus suffered, but did you ever think of how the Father suffered as he saw his one and only Son
Profound.
going through this? He suffered as much as Jesus did, seeing this happening.
Lou, that is powerful. I've never heard that said like that before. And being a father, that cuts right to my heart. I would much rather be suffered than watch my child suffer.
So good. And you know why he did this? So we could spend eternity with him. He actually wants us to be with him. Blow your mind.
It's too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a gift for this. You set my mind to divine imagination. It doesn't hurt us to dream of what could be. What is it like to be a God outside of time? Well, I don't know, but it exists, and that's so exciting. But what would it be like without gravity, without the limits of time, without sickness, without fear?
Yeah. You know, we don't have an infinite mind. We can't understand it, but one day we will. Yeah.
One day we will.
Right?
One day
You'll
we
be
will.
know as you have been known, so that you will understand these things the concepts that you can't get right now. You try to picture these things.
We should speak of the anticipation of what is to come so much more than we do. Instead of focusing on the limitations of this earth, we should focus our minds on that. And I don't know that we do that so well. Some of the hymnists do that so beautifully. They turn them, when we all get to heaven. Like all this stuff is like great for the soul. You know, you should be thinking like that and talking like that, dreaming like that. Yeah, Lou, what a joy, brother. I appreciate you. I do. Thank you for sitting down with me.
You're welcome. Thank you.